Hi all, welcome to today's video. Today's topic is the ups and downs of living in Australia, my comprehensive review of how life has been living in Australia. So you recently, if you're my subscriber, you know we've recently celebrated 7 years of living down under, and it's been a ride. It's been a roller coaster of various things, but I still love living in Australia. And today I'm going to be talking about and just delving deeply into the pros and the cons, what we love about Australia, what we do not like about Australia, or what we what we would wish wasn't happening here in Australia, but it is what it is. So we'll talk about that in today's video quite deeply, so that if you are contemplating moving to Australia, you can listen in and know what to expect. And if you are already here, please feel free to comment and tell me about your experiences. So the first pro, or the first thing that I like about living in Australia, is the high standards of living and the functional systems. So I find, and it's mainly because I've lived in Kenya and now I live here. Obviously, the systems are different, being a first world country here in Australia. But essentially what I like about living here is the fact that the high standards of living. So this cuts across various things. So the biggest for me is the lifestyle, and then it is the healthcare, and then the education system. If you look at the education system, it's ranked quite highly it's ranked highly among the top universities in the world. So you find that the education system, especially university, even tertiary institutions, kids find themselves really well prepared for life ahead. They find themselves, hands-on experiences, them that go into apprenticeship, learn early how to do things, courses like plumbing, courses like, arts and stuff like that. You find that, kids are quickly adjusting into, starting life and getting a career of their own. The other thing that I find that I really like about living here, and especially if you've become a permanent resident or a citizen, is the access that you've got to Medicare. So Medicare is the public way of, funding healthcare in the public system. And this will allow you to have, free hospital admissions and subsidized services, services with your healthcare providers, be it the specialist or your general practitioner. I find this very good because if you're unwell and it is something urgent or emergency, or you need an ICU admission, you don't have to think about the admission fees or paying up, because if you need that urgent service in a public hospital, it will be made available to you. And if you need like something privately done, then at that point in time, then your private cover can come in quite handy. And I find this very good because healthcare is not discriminatory in that sense. So anyone can walk into a hospital and get the service they need. Anyone can walk into an urgent care and get services. And if you're seeing a specialist, your general practitioner, again, you can get either rebates, or if your provider is bulk billing, meaning that you don't get an extra gap, then that way, again, you find that your services are provided free. The other thing that I find is the lifestyle. Lifestyle is quite good here in Australia. The roads are good, they're functional, the public transport is good, it's on time. The schools structures are in place, our kids can go to school, they can get, nicely air-conned or air-conned, classrooms, and I find that quite good. I just do not take it for granted that we have all these opportunities, and so the cost of living, not the cost of living per se, the high standards of living here are quite good. The other thing that I was looking at is everything here is quote unquote automated, or everything, you can find information that you really need on the on your soft copies, like, you can read on the website, and the government services are quite effective compared to what I was used to. Like, for example, if you need a passport and you need a priority passport, it can be delivered to you in a record to 48 hours or thereabouts. So these are things that I do not take for granted. Like, if you need a service, you do not have to pay anything additional apart from just, the cost of the service that you need. Like, I find this different because, sometimes where I have lived before, services may not be readily available unless you oil the hands of those that are providing the services. So this is something that I really enjoy. And the times that I go back home visiting, I find this very difficult because I'm used to walking to the post and doing this and this and this, transacting and getting services, and without paying an additional cost, without paying, let's say, a bribe or something like that. So I find that really, really efficient. And the other good thing that I find very efficient is, like, for example, if you're found on the wrong by the government, like, let's say you're driving over the speed limit, when the police find you, they don't harass you. They'll just give you your ticket. You get your ticket either in the post if it's the cameras that find that you're overspeeding, or if a police stops you, all they will do is, ma'am, are you aware you are over the speed limit? Here's your ticket and stuff like that. Nobody's going to harass you and tell you, do you know who I am, and stuff like that. Everybody's quite, respectful from that front. So those standards of living I find quite good, and that's why I would still choose Australia today. I would still say that I would like to live here because of the fact that I can get this standards that are quite readily available across board. So across lifestyle, across education for my kids, across the healthcare, and the fact that depending on, it doesn't matter where you are, these services, they may be limited in the very, very remote, but at least there is something available to anyone wherever they are staying. The second thing that I like, and the second pro of living in Australia, is the fact that Australia is multicultural. This has been very, beneficial to us settling in. Australia is like, every time you meet somebody, they will tend to ask you, where are you originally from? Because everybody sort of, is from a different culture here. You may find, like, in your department, there is this person from this background, there's this person from Africa, there's this person from Asia, there's this person from... So you find that the fact that it's quite multicultural, and the fact that, people are coming from different cultures, you can easily find your own culture. And don't get me wrong, this is quite important when you're settling in, and when you're, going through, adjusting to living in Australia. So the fact that we can have the opportunity to have different cultures, and these cultures are also supported by the government. Like here in Western Australia, you find the multicultural department and things like that, and you find that they are actually encouraged, where people are encouraged to meet with one another, to help those that are coming in settle in. There are some programs, there is some funding to even support those that are, starting life in Australia to adjust better, because obviously if you adjust better, you're going to be a better worker, and in that way, contribute to the economy of this country, which is quite a high growing economy. So very important for me, and I find that very helpful that I can have the Kenyan community, I can have the, from, my home area, the Mulembe Nation, and I have seen other cultures as well. I have seen the Egyptian people, I have seen, Filipinos, I have seen the Indians, I have seen quite, people that practice their culture even here. as much as, you're trying to assimilate into the Australian culture, it's quite important as well to keep your own culture and pass it on to your kids as well. And the best way to do this, obviously, is to belong somewhere. So I really like that about Australia, the fact that it encourages multiculturalism, it acknowledges that we are from different cultures, and it gives us the ability and even makes it easier for us to meet one another based on our different cultures. The third thing that I like about living in Australia is the natural beauty. Australia is beautiful. Australia is extremely beautiful. And I find, the picturesome, places that you go, the beaches, you can find very beautiful beaches, clear waters, shell beaches, it's just so beautiful. And the coastlines. Like sometimes I take photos of the places that we go and I'm like, I'm so grateful that we are where we are today. And sometimes you share those photos with your friends and they're like, oh, wow, oh, wow. But it is quite a beautiful country. And sometimes the beaches are not too far from you, because I lived back at home. I would need to go to the coastal region to enjoy the beaches, or go to the lake region to enjoy Lake Victoria and stuff like that. But here I can actually just drive, depending on where I am. If I'm regional, I can just drive 10 minutes. And if I'm in the city, I can drive, depending on where I live, but definitely less than 1 hour to get to a beach and enjoy the beauty that's the beach. The other thing is the flora and fauna. And Australians really, this is something that I really, really like. Everywhere you go, I was in Melbourne, there's the botanical gardens that are beautiful. They are beautiful. You walk in and you feel like you're out in nature and you're just in the middle of the city. So you feel like you are out in nature, the trees, the birds, the flowers, the kept lawns, extremely beautiful, extremely beautiful. And you find this in Kings Park. You'll find a lot of the big, a lot of the places have at least a botanical garden where you can, and it's free to enter. You just go in, you walk around, you sit, you can have a picnic. Obviously, you need to clean after yourself when you're done. You can take pictures, you can hang out with your kids and your friends and your family. It's really something that I find, it may not be big to someone else, but to me, I find, the fact that you can just go out in nature within a city and enjoy and just walk around, ease your mind, very, very, very good, very, very exciting for me. So the idea that the government actually takes time to put these structures in place for its people, it's really, really incredible, and it's something not to be taken for granted. So the landscapes, the beaches, the coastal lines, the botanical gardens, all those things, coming together, I just find like, it makes Australia so beautiful, extremely beautiful. And I haven't even talked about if you go country. You'll find, the wild picking season, the wildflower season. You will go and find, natural, where flowers just sprout and they're encouraged. You can go, deep in country, see the red soil, see the Aboriginal culture. It is so rich. Like, you can do so much in a day that your day is quickly filled just by going out and seeing what Australia has to offer. So this is something that I really enjoy. It has encouraged me. Someone that I was always indoors, now I'm finding myself going a bit more outdoors, traveling a little bit more, and hopefully with time, I should be able to go around Australia. So keep it here. The other thing that I really like about Australia, that's the fourth pro, is the fact that there are a lot of leisure activities that you can do in Australia, and a lot of them, you don't have to pay much for them. Okay, so like the government really has put into place things like parks for the kids, like wherever, everywhere, every suburb will have like a play area. It will have a school. They have really, like, You can find some places even have sensory parks for kids with special needs and stuff like that. And I find this very helpful because it encourages you as a parent to be involved in your kids. You can take them out, you can take them to the park. You can there's a lot you can do with kids. You know, you can go to the beach. You can go camping. There's just so much leisure activities you can do. Those that love fishing can teach their kids how to fish. They can go hang out with their friends and do fishing. There are those that can, sports. Sports is a big thing in Australia. Sports is a big thing. People love, going to canoe, people kayaking, foodie, a lot of things that people can do. And it's just the fact that this is ingrained in the Australians' way of life. And when you come here, somehow you'll find yourself incorporating that into your lifestyle as well, even as you adjust and adapt to the life that is Australia. So I find that very helpful from that front, that it can cause you as a family to be connected. It can assist you in raising your kids and finding a community as well, finding, you sort of, tribe of, people that will surround you and your family as you adjust to living in Australia and even as you live in Australia. The fifth thing that I like about Australia is the job opportunities. There's a lot of job opportunities and there is a lot of job satisfaction. As myself as a doctor, I have really enjoyed being here. I have really enjoyed working with people that have mentored me, people that have assisted me to grow in my career. And I have so many opportunities today. Like today, I actually choose where I want to work. Like I can work here, I can work here, I can work here. And I can choose to work part-time, I can choose to work full-time, I can choose to do extra shift if I need to, and things like that. And this is not only white-collar jobs, this is not only for those that are, doctors or those that sit in offices, even for those that are doing like apprenticeship, people that are doing plumbing, electricians and stuff like that. There's still quite a lot of job opportunities for them. And but like I always say, opportunities are there, but you need to seek them. There are also people that are not working as well, so at the end of the day, this is what I like. This is just what I like about the fact that you can go to work and you can make a difference in someone's life. For example, like if you work like in medicine, being a doctor, nurse or whatever, and generally just the healthcare system, I really like the fact that if you walk into a shopping mall, you'll find a defibrillator somewhere. You just need to look, If you haven't looked and you live in Australia, if you walk into a mall, walk around, you'll find some places where they've written emergency, and you'll see that inside there is a little defib. So if somebody collapsed, hopefully there's somebody that can do CPR on you, and that, there is, the machines that would be required if you needed to someone to use a defibrillator on you. So I do not really take that for granted, the fact that we can go to work and we can, feel like you've made a difference in someone's life. You can resuscitate someone and you see them walk home, go back home. That's the biggest joy for me, the fact that I can feel so nice at the end of the day that I made a difference in a family's life, somebody's life. So job satisfaction for me is the biggest thing that I really enjoy working here, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. Obviously, it takes a while before you get to that level of feeling comfortable with yourself going to work. And I joke and I say there are days that you won't want to go into work. But as the more you adjust to living here, the more you adjust to working with your colleagues, the more your skills develop, you get a little bit more confident. And with time, you actually enjoy going to work and contributing in your way to making people's lives better. Number 6 is the other thing that I like about living in Australia is the immigration policy. I was actually just reading somewhere because obviously I'm not a migration expert or anything like that, but I was reading somewhere and it was talking about how diverse the migration policy is. The fact that there are so many visas available to people to come and live in Australia. You can find, they are student visas, they are work or skilled visas. You can find, talent sort of visas. You can find all the way to permanent residence and citizenship. And Australians, if you have a skill that they need and you follow the right or the due diligence, with time you will get your papers, you get your permanent residence, and then obviously with time you get your citizenship and live in Australia. So all you need is to have a skill that they need. The skills they need will be on the skills list, and then you need to just strategize depending on where you are. You may need to use a migration expert or an education expert to know what you need to work on to just make sure that you are eligible for one of the multiple visas available. I have seen even, those countries with reciprocal arrangements with Australia, people come in even as farmers to come in and help in in some seasons like harvest and stuff like that. I have seen some of my colleagues who have siblings who come in from some countries who come in just on tourist work visa, something like that, a working visa, especially in countries like Ireland. People just come in and, they come in for, let's say, a period of time. They set their targets, they come, work, make an income and go back home. So there is something for someone, something for every one of us. It's just that you need to look and see which one is most appropriate for you. The other thing that I like about living in Australia is the benefits of being a permanent resident or a citizen. Obviously, it takes you a while. Like for us, it took us about, was it 4 years to get permanent residence or 3 years? I can't remember exactly. But eventually, when you go through, depending on the visa that you've come on, you work through it and you get your permanent residence, there are a lot of benefits that come with it. In my other videos, I've explained, like for doctors, if you want to be a permanent resident, you just need to get your general registration or, your skills assessment, and then lodge, depending on the visa that you want to lodge. That will give you permanent residence, and then after, if you've lived here for 4 years and 1 year on your permanent residence, you can apply for your citizenship. So there are benefits that are attached to you being a permanent resident, and the biggest for me that I must say is the fact that you can get a house, so you can apply for a mortgage and then you get a house. For me, that has been sort of my highlight, being able, to live in my own house. It's really something that I do not take for granted, something that I'm very, very proud of. The fact that I don't have to organize for inspections. When you don't have your own house and you're in a rental, you have to prepare for inspections every so often. And not because of, I don't want to be clean, but the fact that you just know someone is walking through your house and looking at your stuff. Still found that to be a bit not the best for me. So just knowing that nobody's, unless I get a contractor in to do something, I can rest assured that no one's going to come and see whether my house is clean or not. So for me, that's a big thing. The fact that you can get your permanent residence, you get a house of your own, you can get to enjoy the Medicare benefits that come with being a permanent resident or a citizen. You can enjoy consular support. This reminds me so much during the time of COVID, the fact that you had permanent resident and you were out there, the government was able to organize for you to come back home. For me, that's a really big thing to know that if you are ever in dire need or in a situation that was not good, you would get the consular support that you would need from your government because you are part of Australia. So that's really something that I must say is good. The fact that you can get Medicare as well is good. The fact that your kids can get subsidized school fees if they are in a public school, the fact that you can get to vote and have a say in who is going to be your leader once you become a citizen. For me, that's really, really, really good. So that's something that I really like about being here and being a permanent resident, the fact that I get to enjoy some privileges, which again, I do not take for granted. I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful that we have had to work hard to get there. So it's not easy, but eventually everybody, or if you want, you can get to be a PR and a citizen. I forget the number, but I think the 8th point or something like that is every job in Australia is valuable. Every job in Australia is valuable in terms of, like, if you go to work, you get a pay. Okay, there's the minimum wage that everybody gets to get. Like, you cannot be paid below the minimum wage, and the fact that as long as you are providing a service to this great nation, you will be rewarded for it. So it doesn't matter whether you are in a white collar job, a blue collar job, or whatever it is job that you're doing. You can rest assured that at least if you go out, do your job, you get paid. And the other thing that I really, really like about it is the fact that you can re-entry in certain jobs. Like, say you've worked as, you went to school, you worked as an architect, or you worked as an archaeologist, and you got to a point you're like, I don't feel this. My wish would be to become a nurse. There are avenues in which you can now change route and retrain and re-enter the workforce in another area. So I have seen that quite a lot. And I've also seen the fact that some people actually take a break. Some people actually take a break. Let's say you are a lady and you had your kids and you want to take a time and raise your kids. You can actually stay home as much as you want. And then when the time comes for you to get back into work, you just need to go in, retrain a little bit, work under some form of supervision, or whatever it is that you do. There is a way that you can re-enter the workforce once you're comfortable that your kids are old enough for you to get back into work. You can also have the opportunity to work part-time. I can never reinforce this enough. You can get an opportunity to work part-time so that you can still raise your kids, or you can still do other things at the same time, enjoy the job that you enjoy doing. So that, for me, I find to be another big highlight, because for me, work is important. Work is what has brought me here, and I want to be able to go to work, feel happy about being at work, but also have the adjustment or the ability to choose when to work, and so that I put what is important to me, which is family, ahead if I need to, so that, I get that good work-life balance, which Australians really, really respect, the work-life balance. So that, for me, is another very key point, and that's why I love living here. The fact that I can know that if I decided that I want to do something different, I can always, train into it and get into it, and I will still be fine. Nobody's going to look at me, oh, this, oldish looking person is back in class. No, it doesn't really matter. Everybody's doing it. So eventually when you do it, nobody's going to look at you in a funny way. Okay. Number 9 is the other thing that I really like about this place is the low crime rate. Having lived wherever I have lived before, and having, experienced, my house was once swept clean, and essentially came back home and found so much had been taken. I always have that sort of, still that sort of, fear behind at the back of my mind. But I must say Australia is really good in the fact that there is low crime rate. Don't get me wrong, there are areas where still there is crime, but the fact that, having the low crime rate, the fact that, you can go to work, come back, you don't have to worry too much about, coming back home at 2 a.m. You can open your own garage and get into the house. You can, that's something that I really value about living here. The fact that you can go around your business and not worry too much about just someone randomly on the street looking at you, looking at, let's say, the color of your skin, looking at, And I'm saying this obviously looking at what sometimes happens in other countries, even developed countries, where people are shot here, there. I think Australia is very good. And I find because, the gun regulations are quite strict here, I find that to be another sort of good thing that is in Australia. The fact that the crime rate is low, less gun violence, you can go around, you're doing your own business without fear that, this is going to come your way. So I find that very, very important. And that's why I really love living in Australia. The last main reason why I love living in Australia is the fact that Australians are very friendly. Wherever I go, I find everybody is very, very respectful. Even when the person that serves you at the shop, thank you, please, excuse me. All those are things that I hear from day to day, and it just naturally grows up on you as well. So I find that helps or has helped me over time to settle in easier, to work my way through things without fear, without feeling little or feeling, I find that very helpful. For me, that's quite good that Australians are respectful. Even in my workplace, my patients are very respectful. The people that I work with are very respectful. And that makes the work environment really good and really, really friendly for everybody. Look, those are the things that I like about living in Australia. There is much more that I can say, but I feel that should do it for today. Those are my top reasons why I love living in Australia. I was going to cover the cons or the things that I don't like about living in Australia. And the biggest for me is the fact that I'm so far away from my loved ones. Australia is far. If you look at the map, Australia is extremely far, and my reference is extremely far from Africa. Regardless of what flight you take, there is no direct flight, for one. For two, there's no flight that's less than, if I decided to go to Dubai, that's like 10, 11 hours. If I decided to go to Qatar, that's like 10, 11 hours. If I decided to go to South Africa. So either way, wherever I am going home to see my parents or my siblings, it is so far. Australia is very, very far. And that's something that I don't really like. But it's not something that I can do anything about. It's just geographically, Australia is far. And because it's far, sometimes you can get really lonely, because family for me is very important. You can get quite lonely, especially in the first few years or few months of coming to Australia. I find as much as people are friendly and there for you, I found maybe during when we were settling in, I found it a bit harder to adjust for the first few months. Actually, not only months. I think the first year or two, it was harder for us. But eventually, as you adjust, as you integrate in the communities that I've mentioned about, and they are there, multiculturalism is a big thing here. As you integrate and you get your way into life, things get better. And therefore, with time, you get less lonely. And because your family is far away, that is not only far away for distance, it's also cost. If you want to travel home to see your loved ones, you think about a family of 5. It is a lot of money, almost 15 to 20 grand. It's quite a lot of money to just use for air tickets alone. So it can be, I have found people that have lived here for many years, 8, 10, without having gone back home. Why? Because the cost is really high, and obviously it's far. And and I feel that is not something that can easily be rectified, because that's the geography of Australia. But that's it. That's one thing that if I had a way, I would change. But obviously, I don't have a way. So that's the thing. The other thing that's attached to that I don't really like about being in Australia is the lack of family support. having lived in Africa where you have lots of support from your parents, from your siblings, from nannies and household workers and stuff like that. Here you get to do a lot of things by yourself. I mean, you have to come from work, put that hat of being a doctor down and take on the hat of being a mom and do things around the house. And you've got to quickly learn how to prioritize things, how to time manage yourself so that one area is not suffering at the expense of the other. So as much as this is something that I don't really like, I wish I had a bit more help, but it's something that just again, you learn how to live with it, you learn how to just cope. And so if you're starting life in Australia and you're feeling that pinch, just remember, we all have been there, we have worked through it, we have grown through it. And somehow with time, as your networks increase and as you connect with other families, things get better, because obviously then you get a bit of support from that, your friends, and as you get a few family members across, you get a bit of support from them as well. So in a nutshell, I still love living in Australia. I would still choose to live in Australia today, several years down the line, knowing what we've had to go through to get to where we are. I would still choose Australia. So if you are contemplating and you're at that crossroads thinking, should I not? I just want to encourage you that indeed you can. Australia is a land of a lot of opportunities, a lot of, potential for growth, a lot of potential to even, be a part of the Australian people. So just go forth and do whatever it is that is to help you live, work in Australia. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.